Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show, Supercast. And the Supercast, of course, where we talk about all things pop culture superhero related. That's, of course, TV, movies, video games, all that fun stuff. And I am your host, Mo De Poupe, your resident Fabricant and comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by the video game designer, anime expert, and of course, lover of all things superhero, my good friend Lottie. Lottie, how you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Really loved the episode that we saw, and I'm really also like to talk about this news that's coming up.
Absolutely. And of course, he's referring to Marvel's What If, which we have been following week to week since it dropped a few weeks ago. It's the fourth week of Marvel's What If. And in honor of the fourth week of What If, we are titling this episode Into the Stranger Verse. And you'll understand what that all that means if you watch the episode. So stick around. We're going to talk about that at the end of this episode. But before we can get into all that, every week brand new things are happening in superhero, pop culture things, all the movies and TVs and video games and stuff. And, we couldn't do a supercast without jumping into some of that stuff and weighing in and seeing what's going on. So we're going to start off with our weekly news segment. And there's a lot. There's a lot this week, actually. We found out that the DC Fandome, they listed the things that they're going to be talking about in the fandom for this year. There's some Marvel news about potential upcoming projects. And Clark Gregg of Agent Coulson, if you will, talks about where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fits into the MCU canon. There's more gameplay footage coming from that Midnight Suns Marvel game. We
Mhm.
found out about Venom's rating, and there's a couple of things that have finished filming, so they're going into post production. We're going to talk about those things, and if we got a couple more things, or opinion pieces, if you will, where we're going to weigh in on a couple of items. So let's jump into all that. We got a lot to get going. So uh, our first thing, we're gonna hit some quick Marvel news. Now, Lottie, I think I'd mentioned to you before. There's they're kind of going into horror, if you will, or the supernaturally stuff in Phase Four of Marvel, the Marvel in the MCU. So I saw that there is, I guess I don't want to say a rumor. It's probably more than rumor since it's on Variety that Marvel is in looking forward and trying to cast and to produce a Halloween special for 2022 starring a character that most people probably don't, they have no idea who this is, but it's called Werewolf by Night. And it's a character from the 70s that's, if you can imagine, is a werewolf at night.
Mhm.
And the idea here is to specifically, they're going to be casting a Latino actor to play the lead character. And so I don't know how much you know about Werewolf by Night, but there is this thing probably coming up next year. So, what's your take on it?
So I'm gonna just, I'm really into horror. I am. I'm gonna just give you, you youngins who are listening to this, a quick thing that a lot of these movies nowadays I'm not down with and stuff like that because that's to me that's not horror because you give me a quick jump scare, that's cheap horror. I don't pay for you to give me a cheap jump scare. I want the atmosphere. It I want you to give me a backstory that makes my skin crawl. I want you to give me a backstory that is tragic and sad. Make the scene dark, eerie with the music. That's what I love all about horror. And I like how Marvel is now going more into their more horror like things. And I'm interested because as you know, I love werewolves by the way. And I'm interested in seeing what this opens up with, not just this, because there are other ways of horror, not just with ghosts, goblins. There's Lovecraftian horror, and we all know one of my favorite villains is a Lovecraftian like villain, which is Sumer Garaf.
Correct.
So I would love to see that, this is one of the experiments that actually does well and people go out and watch it, or people turn on their TV and watch it. I hope so, and I would love to see that it does well because, like I said, this will basically allow them to experiment more on other stuff. Because I'm into horror. I love horror. I like I said, I love dealing anything dealing with horror. I just love it,
Right.
especially this kind of horror.
Yeah. This is like, and this, this is the old school Marvel 70s kind of horror stuff. So they that's in the same vein as like Blade and Dracula, Tomb of Dracula.
Hmm.
Ghost Rider is very adjacent to this. Uh, Doctor Strange is very much related to all these things. So I'm interested. This is not a character that I'm super familiar with. I know who Werewolf by Night is. I'm not a big, fan of the character, but we'll see. I just like the fact that Marvel's gotten to the point where they can tell stories all sorts of things. So, and I think that Phase Four has very much a magical, supernatural bend to it right now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Staying on Marvel, we I know you. I know you loved Agents of Shield. I'm a pretty big fan of Agents of Shield, also, and there's been a real question. There's been a question ever since I suppose a, Age of Ultron. Is Agents of Shield actually in the MCU? And I'll answer the question for you. No, it's not. I know people wish it were, but you can tell it's not because nothing that happens in Agents of Shield ever has anything to do with what happens in the movies. Sure, Agents of Shield will take their cues from the movie, but it's pretty clear they're in an alternate universe that spun off of the MCU. But that's not what Clark Gregg says. Clark Gregg, he is insistent that due to the fact that there's a multiverse now and whatnot, that Agents of Shield is in fact canon in the MCU. So, uh, I don't know, Lottie. Are you buying this? Are you buying this from Clark Gregg?
Mm. I wonder how many people in the MCU studios he pissed off by saying this because I,
I'm going to go ahead and say none. But believe I can tell you this: Kevin Feige loves Clark Gregg.
I
You
know,
know how I know
yeah,
he
yeah,
does because he keeps making him show up in things. He was just
yeah.
in he was in episode 3 of What If. So I mean I don't think he made anybody mad, but still.
It's just,
He trying to get a
well,
job. Dude, my dude is trying to get a job. He want that MCU money, baby.
yeah, he wants that. Yeah, that's just what it is because, oh man, I love the Agents of Shield. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it was the best thing since sliced cheese. I'm not gonna say that. It was a good show. I enjoyed the Agents of Shield very much. It, because I do see the big thing where like how does that happen? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. That they could easily say, yeah, Agents of Shield is canon. You know how? Very easy. Multiverse, baby. That's all they gotta say. That's it. It's in a different universe.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
I want it. You
Be-
know what? I'm gonna blow your mind. What if one of the episodes of What If Agents of Shield was canon?
now that will be seriously funny. And Coulson gets a letter from Kevin Feige that says, "You're officially now canon." It's about damn time.
But now we're gonna have a big multiverse thing where a bunch of universes have to be destroyed. Whoops, that's the one of them. Bye.
Oh yeah, yo. Oh yeah. It's, well, see, that's the thing. That's the beauty about the Loki. All this stuff that we're like, nah, they can't do it. There's no way they can. Yes, they can quite easily. Because what can stop them? There's multiple universes. Because now, basically, they can easily say the Deadpool, all those universes actually happened and it was canon. It just happened in their own universe because of what's it called? Because of the multiple timelines, and somehow Deadpool knows that all the time the each timeline is happening as they're happening right now because he's just breaking the fourth wall.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think in a very genius way, Loki essentially was like, I guess Ghost Rider happened. Ghost Rider
Yeah.
with Nicolas Cage happened. I guess Agents of Shield happened. I guess the Netflix things happened. They could have in a separate universe where nothing in the mainline MCU was actually relevant to them. But there's open basically with when Sylvie killed when Sylvie killed the He Who Remains, she was just opening up the Fox and Paramount vaults, and we're like, oh, you all of you can be in the MCU. So I don't, but I think as far as what Clark Gregg's talking about, oh, you talk about wishful thinking. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it. I mean, again, loved. I was a big fan of Agents of Shield. Not all the way through, but there's a bunch of it that I really like, and I can tell that in no way are they actually in the regular MCU. So,
No.
sorry, Agent Coulson, you have to remain dead in the in the real MCU.
Well, he has to remain in his own universe
Yeah,
where he's actually relevant.
yeah, exactly. So moving on. Uh, this is a little commentary for this. I wanted to circle back around to the Marvel's Midnight Suns game, which I know you saw the trailer for it and everything.
Mm.
Which it's we were talking about horror or whatever. This is a supernatural or horror thing. I don't want to say horror thing, but supernatural theme game that pulls in different members of uh, the Marvel Comics universe into a game in which they're trying to defeat Lilith, the mother of demons, who is a real character apparently in the Marvel universe, um, who's I guess come back, and you play the character who is the daughter or son or whatever of of Lilith, who has to try to defeat her with the help of the Marvel uh, characters. So I got a chance. They did a live stream of the gameplay footage. So I went and checked out the in game footage, and really I didn't really listen to what they were talking about because it's whenever developers sit and talk about their games to like IGN or something, it's about how much of that can you believe is going to be legit. It's a lot of salesmanship or whatever.
Yep.
But what I did see, I mean, look, again, it's sort of like XCOM. And I haven't played XCOM in a really long time, but any of those little tactical, RPG games where you control several people and, you set everybody up to do certain moves, it's not real time combat, it's all turn based. But what was interesting, I saw that they use like a card deck of sort, kind of like a CCG where you control or you give powers or where you pull cards and like, oh, good, I can, cast this and it. So if you are sort of into Magic the Gathering or something like that, or Pokemon, whatever those card games are, Hearthstone or whatever, part of this will be very familiar to you. But also, if you're used to playing those tactical strategy games, it's also going to be familiar to you. And it's an RPG at the same time. Um, I mean, I want to say it looks pretty good as far as early footage can be, and it's clear that they're trying to actually provide the actual character that you expect from each of the different characters like Wolverine or Blade or whatever. And there's side missions and all that fun stuff. So it's probably going to be a good amount of gameplay out of it. But all that being said, I don't think I'll check this out just because none of that sounds like something I want to spend a lot of time doing. Either building decks or micromanaging a fucking AI character. I don't want to do any of that. So, but it looks cool. It looks pretty cool. I mean, I don't
It's
know. Is
it's
this something that you might check out?
it sounds like Um, it literally sounds like Marvel Final Fantasy. I just I feel like Marvel is when it comes to gaming, they want to get their foothold into the gaming industry so bad that they're just I'm not gonna say they're just tossing ideas at the wall, but it feels like they're willing to try anything to get their hands into something to where I feel like the ideas that worked, they don't want to go back to those ideas, which doesn't make any sense. Which are you already know what they are: action, adventure games, those beat 'em up games,
Mm-hmm.
and fighting games.
Right.
Why don't you try to go back to those genres? Why are you trying to be RPGs? Because like let's look at the other Marvel game that's coming out. The Guardians of the Galaxy. It's another RPG like game, and you just ask yourself like, why are you guys trying so hard to try to get into other genres when you could just keep working on what made you your money in the first place? Because you know, when's the
Yeah.
last time? When's the last time we had a good Marvel versus Capcom? And
Yeah.
Capcom wants to make it. Marvel just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think the main problem with anything that is has character progression is they sort of have to reset a character to square one. I mean, even with good ones like Marvel Spider-Man, they sort of have to be like, here's your baseline, but at some point you're gonna need better equipment and better suits and all this. You're gonna need all that stuff,
Yeah.
and so the problem with superheroes is that they are by nature static. Even when they get new powers, something eventually undoes their powers. Spider-Man has gotten brand new powers and has lost them for better part of 60 years. And
Yeah.
and Wolverine similarly, all the other characters they gain powers only to lose them. And so that doesn't make for a good RPG. RPGs are about steady progression upwards. And so yeah, that's not a good place to go. So you're right, like action games that where you even in action games you have to learn new skills or whatever. You never start with all of your skills and then just have to learn how to creatively use them. So to that effect, I think maybe this is more in line with that idea that these are static heroes, but they even then they progress and they level up or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know how they crack that nut. Um, Other than just have a fighting game, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but I do encourage everyone to check that out. I think we gotta. I don't want to say you gotta support a game you don't want to play, but if it looks like it's your cup of tea, like hook it up. We can only. It's just kind of like with the movies. Like if there's enough interest, they'll make more things. So that would be good. Let's talk. Let's talk a little very short, quickly about Venom. Let There Be Carnage. Venom 2. It has now been officially rated at PG-13. This is a movie about
It hurts me a little bit.
this is a movie about a symbiote that likes to eat people, and even if it doesn't get to eat people, it definitely does hurt them pretty badly. With hands that turn into knives and a big old mouth full of a million shark teeth that'll rip your head off. That was in the first one. It was PG-13. The next one features a villain that is literally a serial killer who wants nothing better than to paint the town red, literally.
Yeah.
Rated PG-13. So, uh, what does that mean for? What do you think that means for this movie? There's going to be a lot of cutting away from people getting torn apart.
And I mean, it's God. I mean, it's like imagine trying to make a serial killer movie. 'Cause this is like I think a lot of people think we're like over exaggerating when we say Carnage is a serial killer. We're I mean literally, Carnage is a serial killer with superpowers. Like he's not like Homelander who will spray who would just use his heat vision and just tear you apart. No, Carnage is going to string you up and rip you into pieces and keep you alive while he's killing you, and he's going to laugh and scream, then eat you after he's done. That is Carnage. It's like watching, like, what's that movie? Jeepers Creepers.
Right.
It's a serial killer that has superhuman strength and amazing abilities, and it's just this. It'll be kind of. I wonder how they're gonna make the movie entertaining to us who know who Carnage is. Give it enough because for them to make him scary and not cringy. Because yeah, that tongue scene, yeah, that was kind of like the regular people. That's like, ooh, God, what in the hell? But me, I just looked at there and says that's very tame for Carnage. I
Yeah.
just sat there and was like, I've seen him do worse in a TV show. And you know what I mean?
Right.
I've seen him do worse in an animated TV show. So just I just hope that they're able to, even though it's PG-13, they can skirt the line so much that they can almost make it rated R.
Right.
They have to skirt this line very close.
Yeah. Well, I I know that it seems like this could like just be a huge misfire because Carnage is who Carnage is, right? It's like trying to make a Halloween movie where a PG-13 Halloween movie and still make it effective. I get that, but I suspect I have some ideas about why it probably they made it this way. Well, number one, again, they probably cut away from the graphic dismemberments. Just like they did, much like they did in the first Venom. Venom literally bites a dude's head off, but they don't do it like King Shark and Suicide Squad. They sort of show you him going in for the kill, and then you cut away to someone's reaction, so you know what happened, but you don't know what happened.
And you can
Yeah,
hear it.
and so there's nothing. That's one thing is like the MPA when they give ratings to things, they do it on very specific things. So hearing things happen, hearing someone getting ripped apart, that's fine. Even if you see like a sort of a shadow of things happening, that's fine too. You can see people get shot up. You see that in the MCU all the time, but
Hmm.
you can't see blood spurting. That's the deal. And so I suspect that there's going to be a lot of that. Now, my thing is that you can tell enough, you can effectively make Venom 2 creepy and horror-ish because there are plenty of horror movies that don't even show you what the hell is stalking you. That you can't see it. You don't know it's there. Or you know it's there, but you can't actually say for sure it's there, right? And so
Yeah.
there's not much blood or whatever. There's just a bunch of, paranoid ass people getting stalked down. So that's one thing. I'm certain that it doesn't take a lot to invoke horror in that way. The other thing is Carnage is red. He's literally red, and so in a way, the fact that Carnage is red conceals the fact that he's bathed in the blood of his victims
Yeah.
very easily. So you could very easily be like, "That's not blood. That's just Carnage. He's red." You know. So but we know the audience knows. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not. This doesn't bother me really because I've seen horror movies that have been PG-13 that worked, and it wasn't because they had blood. It was or things getting dismembered. It was because of the way you set the stage for everything to happen. And also, let's remember this is really a superhero movie too. So if Carnage lays into Eddie Brock, we know he's fine. Or if he lays into Venom and rips him up, it's fine. Aliens can rip each other up. They just can't rip people up. That's rated R. So
Yeah.
I think there's and Andy Serkis is the director of this. He's a smart guy. He knows what's up. So I'm pretty optimistic about this. Um, so from moving on from there, let's talk about a couple of things that have finished filming. Yay! I always love. One of my favorite things whenever I'm seeing the news items for these is we've wrapped filming. I love that because when you wrap film, especially in superhero things, when they wrap filming, it usually means there's something like, I don't know, 6, 9 months, maybe a year until you see it because they got to do post production and CG and all that fun stuff and reshoots and whatever. And so usually you figure about 9 months to a year, depending on what it is, that you'll eventually see it in theater, or in this case on streaming. So we two things wrapped. First, Umbrella Academy wrapped their season 3 filming, and number two, Shazam 2 wrapped its filming over the last week. So there's two projects that I am highly anticipating that have done with their principal photography. They are going to post production now and probably reshoots at some point, but post production. So before I weigh in on these, Lottie, what is your first of all, what do you think about the fact that these things are done, and second of all, what's your anticipation level for both of these projects?
So Shazam, I am extremely excited for Shazam. I you know how much I loved Shazam, and I'm um happy to see that it's finished up and it's doing well. Umbrella Academy, I'm not too much up on Umbrella Academy, but I'm definitely gonna start
Have you seen it?
new.
Oh my!
Not
Oh,
saying
good. You know what? Thank you. I used to over here clapping because I get to put you up on game. Uh,
it.
let me put you up on game, my friend. First, well, let me talk about Shazam first. First of all, the first Shazam was awesome. I saw
Yes.
it. I saw it a couple times in the theater. It's on Blu-ray. It's one of my favorite comic book pure. It is what I consider to be a pure comic book movie, in the sense that that is a that story is a story that I could see on the pages of a comic book, and
Honestly, it was, the new 52 comic, it literally followed it I'll say 95%. The only thing different is they changed the villain. Like it was literally the same exact story. Only thing different is that the villain was supposed to be Black Adam. If it was
right,
Black Adam, it would have been exactly just like the movie. Like the comic book, I read it. I read the comic book like a year, about like 3 or 4 years ago. And when I was watching the movie, I'm like, this is literally the new 52 comic book all over again.
right,
Literally.
yeah, and it was. I think it was a great distillation of what Shazam and the whole Shazam family was about.
Hmm.
And I don't think it. I think a lot of people slept on it, unfortunately, because they didn't really quite know what to make of it. They're so used to grim, dark DC shit. What I don't want to say
Yeah.
shit, because I actually do like a lot of the DCU stuff, the grim, dark stuff. I still like that stuff, but it's such they're used to grim, dark stuff, or they were used to the kind of jokey MCU stuff, and Shazam's kind of doing its own. It's kind of doing its own thing. Very It's what it is. It takes the whole concept of a kid getting superpowers, and it's very earnest about how it presents. What's going on, and so
Hmm.
it's just a damn fun movie. So I'm super excited, especially with all of the behind the scenes photos and stuff. They added to the cast and everything like that. I'm just super excited, and I heard that maybe probably not, but there might be a Black Adam cameo. So if that's true, hell yeah. So yeah, can't wait to see more. I'm gonna keep my ear to the ground to
Just
hear about the post production of Shazam.
real quick, when are we supposed to get Black Adam? Have you heard anything about that?
I do believe it's next year. I
Okay.
think I want to say they wrapped. I want to say they wrapped photography on Black Adam recently. If no, they might still be filming Black Adam. So I'll keep a lookout. I think they're still filming. So you can expect both of them to come next year. Probably
Okay.
late next year for Black Adam, but I think Shazam is March of next year, something like that. March of next year. So they got about, you know, and maybe March or April, May, something like that. Maybe May. So you're talking about 9 months of post production. So I'm excited for that. Um, Umbrella Academy. Like I said, let me put you up on game. Umbrella Academy is based on a comic book by a guy named Gerard Way and artist Gabriel Ba. He's a Brazilian artist. Gerard Way, who in another profession of his was the lead singer of My Chemical Romance. But
Hmm.
before he was the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, he went to art school and he had interned at DC uh, before he went into rock music. So that's why is that so interesting? So it's this basically if you've ever seen like the Doom Patrol comics or something from the 80s, he's very much inspired by that. So it's like this alternate universe, semi absurdist. The comic was somewhat absurdist. Like one of the main characters, all the superheroic characters in there, they were kids who were born on the same day to women who were not pregnant when the day started, but they were all born that same day, and they all had abilities. And this stereotypical British, adventurer guy adopts six of them, and he wants to turn them into like a superhero team. And then so he does so, and then the story picks up at his death after he's died, and then all this is years later. They're all grown ups and they're all kind of screwed up in their own way, and they come back together, and it turns out that there's some kind of conspiracy going on. They have to kind of look into it. And I'm very inexpertly explaining the point of this story, which is all these people who used to fight crime together, they come back together for this funeral, and then all of their little, all of um, their interpersonal drama is exposed again. Meanwhile, there's this conspiracy going on that puts them all in danger, and possibly the entire world in danger. That they have to like set their shit aside and try to figure out what's going on. And I might note that this comic slash this and by the way, the first season of Umbrella Academy it very closely resembles the comics. There's some liberties taken, but for the most part, it very closely resembles the comic. And so you have in this show you have a guy who could skip through time who accidentally goes too far in time um, and then comes back and he's still his 12-year-old self. Another one who's super strong but also has the body of a gorilla. Someone else uh, who can basically alter reality by saying a certain catchphrase, and you have a guy who has a literal like what would you call it they call him the Kraken, but he essentially has a Cthulhu monster that comes out of his chest, and another dude who basically is like Bullseye. So that and they all have they all have their problems with each other. Oh, and also there's some assassins who are on their trail too. So this is all the first season, and if that doesn't hook you, I just don't know. I don't know what else to tell you.
Oh yeah.
Go watch the show.
Oh yeah.
It's all on Netflix, and it's
I'm
really
definitely gonna watch it.
so season two was really awesome. Actually, it's actually really really cool. And so season three, yeah, I I can tell you if you follow the comics, season two is like barely recognizable as the second comic volume of the comic.
Hmm.
So I suspect that volume three of the comic book and the third season of Umbrella Academy are not going to resemble each other either. But we shall see. I've It's one of their most popular Netflix shows, and I've highly recommend it. I don't know anyone that dislikes it, that has any kind of taste in anything. So, so I'm really excited about it. Cannot wait to see what they do with season 3. All right, and one last bit of news. We're I don't know. Last year, did you watch? Did you ever catch the DC Fandome, like online event?
No,
Not
I
one.
didn't get a chance to
Yeah,
see
it's
that.
yeah. It was basically. You remember they had Comic Con at home last year. They had Comic Con at home this year too, because of the pandemic. We couldn't have conventions, so usually people would show up and they'd get all this news in person. While elbow to elbow with sweaty ass nerds. And this year they had to do all the sweaty ass nerd stuff on their own at their houses for Comic Con at home. But DC Fandome, they said, yeah, you know what? We can, if you're gonna do shit online, we'll just do it on our own. We don't need to go and pay anybody to be here. So that's what they did. They basically did a DC Comic Con, and it was pretty lit last year. I'm not gonna lie. It was that's where we saw the first bits of Suicide Squad. We got a little bit of the Batman, early teaser trailer. There was, they talked about Wonder Woman 84. There was a, the new Suicide Squad game that's coming out by Rocksteady.
Yeah,
They showed that trailer there. They showed the new Batman, what is the new, what is it called? Arkham Knights or Gotham Knights. They showed the trailer for that. There was just a bunch of stuff last year, and it was really cool. They had a bunch of panels, and you got to sit and listen to different creators talk and whatever. That's also where they announced that they were going to do a Static Shock movie. So just all around, it was pretty cool. And so they are doing this again this year on October 16th, and they've announced what they are going to be showcasing, which is, let me tell you, if you like DC shit, this is all for you. Everything's for you. So. Uh, they are going to be doing a trailer for the Batman, a real trailer, not a teaser, a real trailer for the Batman.
so they got him back in shape. Thank God.
Well, I don't know. They're going to be showing some stuff from DC League of Super Pets, which is going to be one of the starring voice of Crypto with Dwayne Johnson is going to be Crypto. They're going to do a first look at Black Adam, a sneak peek at the Flash, which they're filming right now also, and behind the scenes of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I could just let me just tell you, I could just show up just for that. Everything they just sounds like all of that. I want every bit of it. But also, they have DC does Warner Brothers does TV stuff, so they're talking about looks at the new season of Batwoman and the Flash and Superman and Lois and Sweet Tooth, another show I'm almost certain you slept on. It is based on a comic, and the first season was wonderful. And I encourage you to take a look at it. It's really good. It's on Netflix, so if you need to check that out, um, they're gonna look at the last season, bits of the last season of Supergirl, um, some Legends of Tomorrow stuff, and there's a new CW DC thing called Naomi, and I'll look at Stargirl. Now for the
Hmm.
games, the two games I mentioned before, Gotham Knights and the Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, are going to be featured also. That's cool. HBO Max, they're going to be talking about the new Peacemaker series, the spinoff of the Suicide Squad, and the limited series DMZ, again based on a comic book, a very celebrated comic book from the early 2000s, which I'm super excited for. And they're going to be showing stuff from Titans and Doom Patrol. Um, for the animation side, there's Aquaman King of Atlantis, the Harley Quinn series that's on HBO Max. Um, then up they got a new series, Batman the Cape Crusader and Young Justice Phantoms, which I know you love Young Justice. So
Yeah.
um and moving on from there, they're going to talk about a couple original DC animated films. So They're doing Injustice. Did you know that they were doing an Injustice animated uh, movie based on the Injustice game?
Oh yeah, of course. I
And
mean, oh, they got to.
yeah, and they're doing a Catwoman Hunted is another one. And then finally, they're going to be talking about comics, but we're not going to be worrying about that. We're going to talk about all the other stuff they just said. So that was a lot of stuff. DC Fandome looks like it is packed to the brim, packed to the very rafters with stuff. So you heard all of that, man. What are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
Okay, so now I can see why E3 sucks now because all these people are doing their own streams now, showing off what they want to show off on their own stream. So it, there's a lot of stuff that they're gonna show off on this thing, and I'm definitely gonna tune in because a lot of this stuff I am into. You know what I mean? Like it's good to see that the video gaming they're gonna show the Suicide Squad, the Kill Justice League game. I'm looking into the Gotham game. I was checking out even last year. Plus, the new HBO Max game, TV shows of Doom, Peacemaker, uh, the Doom Patrol, and then uh, you said the other stuff with the Young Justice people, and I mean, like I said, it's a lot. The main thing that I want to see is the Batman trailer. This movie, in my opinion, has to be good. It has to be. Like, this movie has to sell in the billions, in my opinion. It has to. It has to. Like this, DC can't have a mediocre Batman movie. This has to do well. The trailer so far, I want to watch that movie right now from the trailers. This might be, in my opinion, this might be an extremely ultra spicy take. This might be the first Batman movie that I'm actually excited to see. And
Ha-
like since I was a kid.
wow. First, like not even the Dark Knight, not even
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Every single Dark Knight movie, I was just like, eh. Like the only reason why I wanted to see the first Dark Knight because of Heath Ledger's Joker. Besides that, the Dark Knight trilogy was all right to me. You know what I mean? It- That's just my take. That might be a spicy take. So yeah, basically this is that's my spicy take. Some people might not like it, but yeah, I'm very excited for this Batman movie. I'm ready to see what they have in store because, like I said, this movie needs to be a hit. And what I've seen so far, it looks very good. I'm excited to see it. I can't wait to see how it goes. There's other stuff in here that I'm interested in seeing, but if I sit here and list everything, that'll take a very long time. But yeah, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Let's see. This is October 16th. I'm trying to think what's out that week. That might actually be a good week. Wait, what day is the 16th? That might be a good. Uh, that might be a good thing for the supercast. Yeah, that's a Saturday. Oh, we might. Yeah, we might need to do a. We might just need to do a special like thing where we sit and just talk about what they had going on. So we'll think about that. That's gonna be a big news day. So it's I'm everything in there. Look, the Batman. I'm all over that. Basically, Black Adam, and the Flash, and Shazam are like high on my list right now because of all of the behind the scenes. Everything I liked every single one of the. I liked Shazam, obviously. The Flash, I'm just curious about it just because there's so much drama behind it. And Black Adam, it's The Rock. I mean, how can you not want to watch something with The Rock in it?
Yeah, The
Uh,
Rock always makes things watchable.
yeah. As far as the Warner Brothers TV stuff, I'm not really big into CW things, but Sweet Tooth is my jam. So uh, I do want to know what's going on there. Maybe they got some behind the scenes stuff.
I'm
Though,
not gonna lie. Every time you say sweet tooth, it triggers nightmares in
oh,
my
you talk about
head of kid.
Twisted Metal.
Yeah, because I remember playing Twisted Metal Black. You ever played that?
I did not play Twisted Metal Black, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it was basically it got banned from it got banned for a reason. That game was giving kids nightmares because it literally was like a whole bunch of serial killers, and they actually showed them dismembering people in
Right.
cutscenes. Ugh. But just let's get back on topic.
Yeah, the video game stuff. I'm passingly interested in all that stuff. Even though the Suicide Squad trailer from last year was pretty dope. Not gonna lie about that. DMZ and Peacemaker, I'm big on. Peacemaker was a hilarious character, and John Cena kind of killed it as Peacemaker. So, 8 episodes of him being more of a cocky douchebag murderer. Okay, I'll take more of that. DMZ, I know it's based on a comic book um, about an alternate future, or basically a near future America where there's a demilitarized zone running. I think it's through New York City, um, kind of like having Korea, and people who live around the DMZ. So that's interesting enough. Titans, they just had dropped a third season, and Doom Patrol is dropping a third season soon, also. So I'm sure they're just going to kind of talk about that. I'm really looking forward to the panels where they have people that work on these shows talking about these things. As far as all the other stuff, I mean, I'm vaguely interested in the stuff, to be honest. Just vaguely interested in the animated things. So, but maybe they'll entice me in. So, but Fandom is looking pretty stacked, and I'm pretty excited. I've marked it on the calendar. I can't wait to sit and spend a Saturday instead of going. Who needs to go outside and get fresh air? That's for losers. Real nerds stick around and live stream people talking about comic book movies. You heard that from me. Uh, so so that's our news, like actual factual news. So we do have some opiniony things that we can touch on. In particular, so I wanted to just my this is you can call it, this is just Mo's opinion about something that's sort of been swirling around in my brain over the past week. And I know a lot of you have not seen Candyman because it just came out last week. Not a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people have seen it, even though it was the number one movie at the box office over the last weekend, which is
I
something.
very disappointed in all black people who have not watched this movie. How dare like I was really upset when a lot of my friends when I said like, "Oh man, Candyman." They were like, "They made a Candyman movie? How dare you call yourself black and not know the black urban. Oh my goodness. Well, when we were kids, there were certain things that all black people in America know. That was their urban legends. Candyman, Monkey Man, and I can't remember the third one.
I always just remember Bloody Mary personally, but that's just me.
It, yeah,
Uh,
but Bloody Mary is also like
well, can't
for
but
other.
yeah, well, Candyman. I mean, Candyman was the thing of the way I knew it. There's this. Know the movie and everything like that. It's basically, if you were a '90s kid, you probably saw Candyman at some point
Yes.
or another. Um, and they actually they made 25 million over the last weekend on I want to say it was a 20. I think they made, basically, in the first weekend they made their budget back, which is a good sign for any movie. That if you can make your budget back in your first weekend, you're in pretty good shape. So and Nia DaCosta is the director of this. It was co-written by um, Jordan Peele and Nia DaCosta and one other guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but So essentially, it's not even it's not a reboot. It is a sequel to the first Candyman because there are other sequels that were of lesser quality, but they did expand on the story, and it stars Yahya Abdul Mateen, who, if you saw Aquaman, he was Black Manta. If you watched Watchmen on HBO, he played Doctor Manhattan. So this is a guy who's really kind of like he's really his star is shining bright right now, really bright right now, and also star uh, Tiana Paris, who we all know and we're going to see much more of in the Marvels as Monica Rambeau. So there's some faces. Now, why does Mo why do I care about this? This is not a superhero thing. It isn't. It is not a superhero thing. And I hear what you're saying about why aren't people going out to going to see this? It's a horror movie, so that's not really everyone's cup of tea. But I encourage anyone who gives a crap about superhero movies, and in particular MCU movies, and in particular Captain Marvel, because Nia DaCosta is the director, and they're currently they're working on filming it of the Marvels. She was picked. Kevin Feige plucked her out and said, "Hey, we want you to be the director of the sequel to the $1 billion Miss Marvel, or not Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel film." Remember that Captain Marvel film that supposedly was supposed to be so terrible and SJW and all this other shit, and there was all these haters and stuff like that, and it made $1 billion. You remember that movie? She's
Yeah.
she's directing the sequel to that, and I wanted to watch this movie. I said, first of all, I want to see Candyman anyway because I mean it's Candyman. The first one's it's actually a pretty dang good, relatively low budget horror movie, and I wanted to see what this was, and like I said, it's sort of a sequel to that movie. But I wanted to see it not just because it's Candyman, but because I wanted to know what to expect from her as a director. And does she have the chops? Does she have the sensibility visually, you know, storytelling wise? Can she tell a good story visually? Because that'll tell me whether or not I should have high hopes for the Marvels. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to report that you should be very optimistic about the Marvels because this woman has a hell of an eye for filming. She did cinematography is that's not all her because there is a person that actually shoots the film, but she's in charge of kind of the way the movie looks and flows and all that stuff. And I got to tell you, that's the Candyman is a pretty visually kind of very interesting movie. It's in some ways it's very stunning in the way that movie is presented. There's some pretty graphic violence within and it's very supernatural violence, and the way it's presented is pretty damn arresting. So all told, I mean, I don't think it's a like a top 10 movie or whatever like that. There are some flaws within the movie itself, but much of the flaws to me are not based on how it was directed, but are instead based on the writing of the story. The way the story unfolded. It wasn't bad in the way you saw it. It was just more. There were some problems with the way it was actually written. So
A typical horror story.
yeah,
Typical.
but I mean, it's all. There are also some really strong aspects to the script. Some exceptionally strong, and it's very much a movie that remembers it's a sequel and calls back to that original in some very uh, rewarding ways. But what I wanted to pay attention to was how is the story executed and how does it look? What's the look? What's the feel of this movie? What's the
Hmm.
atmosphere? Is it staying true to what it's trying to be? And I think in that sense, Nia DaCosta has to be looked at as a serious director that can take material and really lend, her own personal sensibilities and understanding of film to it and really bring something good out of it. And so I'm extremely excited for the Marvels, especially because Tiana Paris was in Candyman, and she is going to be directed by the same director that she had on Candyman when she's in the Marvels. And also, here's the other thing: the MCU, the Marvel Studios, elevates good directors. They elevate directors who are talented, who have a vision, and who have a story they want to tell, and they elevate them and they support them. And so I expect the very same thing, um, for Nia DaCosta. So uh, if you're not excited about the Marvels, be excited about it now because she's the real deal. Nia DaCosta is the real deal, and I expect great things. So I don't know if you had anything to say in response to that.
I mean, all I'm gonna say is that Marvel hasn't missed very often, and and there's only a few times in between they have missed with like um
Thor: The Dark World, you
uh
can just say it. It's
yeah,
fine.
Thor: The Dark World, Taskmaster being what Taskmaster was.
Trash Master. Uh,
Yeah. um Hulk not doing anything in Endgame. There's certain times
I
that
would
they've
have I would have loved if in Hulk in Endgame if he had put on the Hulkbuster just to be extra.
yeah,
Hulk,
it's just
the
so he
Hulk and
yeah.
Hulkbuster armor. Okay.
Yeah, it's just there's a couple of times they've missed, but more often than not they've hit. So I'm giving them almost like I give the Sony treatment. When they
Yeah.
come out with a movie, I'm going to go watch it, and I'll spend money to go watch it. Very, there is a chance that Sony could come out with a bad exclusive. They've done it before, and in the same thing, there's times that Marvel could come out with a bad movie, a bad or boring movie, or boring episode or something like that. But more often than not, I enjoy what they put out. So I'm not at this point. Marvel has gotten my stamp of approval that I'm not going to question them when it comes to anything, and I feel like nobody should question them. Relatively, really anything right now. Just shut up and watch.
Oh don't tell that to the fanboys complaining about all the diversity and whatever the so-called forced diversity. Oh no, it's
No, why?
it's terrible. Like that Marvel is explicitly trying, to to
Why do we have to have a
widen.
female Superman?
Yeah, it's you know what?
Uh,
If you feel like you're being attacked right now, I just want to reassure you that you absolutely are. If what I just said made you feel attacked, you are the target. So uh,
yeah,
be butt hurt, please,
I
on my
feel
behalf.
bad. Like real talk, like just real quick. I really do feel bad for people who get really upset about certain things like this. Cuz it's not even just with like comic books and video games. I see people get so upset with what other people who make so much more money than them do, and I'm like, do you think they care what you think? I mean, like they're not losing an ounce of sleep because you're upset. You know what I mean? Like, come
Yeah,
on, guy.
I think that people,
Let it go.
I feel like sometimes if you look at social media or whatever, people are so upset about things as if they got money invested in something, or as if they're whether or not Captain Marvel, is too much of an SJW will affect whether or not their mother is going to get the cancer treatment or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I swear, direct that or direct that energy to something actually fucking important because
Yes, please.
this shit is just make believe, dog. If you don't like it, go watch something. I'm serious. You don't like Captain Marvel, go watch something else, man. Like
yeah.
there's so much. I'm sit there and scroll through all the streaming services. There are a million hours of other things going on right now. If you won't like that shit, go watch something. Or better yet, you know what? If you think you know some fucking much about how to make something good that people want to watch, go make something good that people want to watch. You could do
Yes,
that
it's
too. Because
way
if
too many neckbeards
yeah,
out here.
because if that shit was easy, every motherfucker would do it.
Yep.
If it's so fucking easy, if you know so much about what's good and what everybody wants, go make it.
It's
It's
just
easy.
way too many neckbeards out here
It's just like chill.
getting mad about Marvel.
Just chill. You know what? In fact, you know what? You go have fun, get your hate on, get an ulcer over bullshit that's made up, make believe things. I'm just gonna have fun over here. How about that? You
Yeah.
you wallow in your hate, and I'm going to enjoy Captain Marvel too. So yeah, have fun.
Oh my
That's
god. Why? Why did they make Captain Marvel blonde? Captain Marvel's not supposed to be blonde.
well,
Well,
she is
Captain
supposed to be
Marvel is
blonde, but
blonde. Yeah, damn, no, but that's what I'm saying. But they'll say stupid stuff like this,
yeah.
where they're like, "Oh, there's no female Captain Marvel." What in the? You obviously don't. It's not canonically in the canon. You obviously don't read the comic books. You just scream. You're just being mad to be mad because you're just screaming BS at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, shots fired. Blop 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 blop. If you feel attacked, it's because you are being attacked. Just trust me. All right, so enough on that. That was just Mo's opinion, y'all. All right, well, that's all of our news, all of our opinion on the news for this week. Of course, you know, we can't cover every single thing that comes out in superhero stuff. So if we miss something, or if you just want to, you know, drop a line, let us know what you think about what we're talking about, you can get down to the comment section and, you know, drop us a line. Tell us what you want us to hear. And of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow at gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And we can chop it up about this news. You know, it's what we love to do, speculating and pontificating. So you guys do that. Uh, so now let's get to the meat, the you know the main topic of today's episode, which is what if episode 4, and it's entitled. I'm probably mangling this. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Which is why we call this episode Into the Strangerverse. Into the Strangerverse. So, um, can I just say, just like my first hot take is vast improvement over last episode. Gigantic, vast improvement over last episode. And you know, I you know we're not even gonna do spoiler, not spoiler. Let's just do. We're just gonna spoil it. So, if you have not seen this episode, what are you? First of all, what are you doing? You know we're gonna talk about what if. Go watch the episode. Come back and listen to us like really dig into this. So you've been warned. It's all spoilers from this point forward. So get out of here if you haven't watched it. Okay. All right. So let's spoiler talk. Lottie, this damn episode, yo. This damn episode. What was your thoughts about this episode?
So this episode really reminded me of a one of my favorite episodes in the show called Danny Phantom, and I'll explain what I mean by this. By so in this episode of Danny Phantom, there was quote unquote the ultimate enemy. It shows the future. The future is supposed to be this futuristic world where everything, it seems like they've gotten everything they ever wanted. But but their city is being surrounded by a barrier. And you're like, okay, what are they trying to protect themselves from? And eventually they find out the barrier gets broken down. And when the barrier opens up, oh, that's where the line came from. That's where the line, because in the beginning of the episode, when the barrier breaks down, there's this girl who Danny was supposed to end up with. It's a black chick named Valerie, and that was his basically his love interest. And she, when the barrier breaks down, he ends up where she at because she protects the world. And Danny shows up as his futuristic self, right? All buff. He's older now, buff, but he's only a ghost. Because you know the show Danny Phantom, it's a human that got he had an accident like Spider-Man, but instead of becoming like a spider, he became half ghost. So he has ghost power.
Hmm.
So, but in this future, he's all ghost. And he says, "Hello, Valerie, and goodbye." And he attacks Valerie. And she eventually was able to escape him by going into the past. And she's trying to prevent the future from happening. And everybody's getting involved to the point that, like, you know how in the Marvel episode, the Watcher's watching, in this show, Danny episode, there's this being called Clockwork. He's basically the Watcher of Time. He's getting involved because the Guardians of reality are like, hey, we can't let this happen. We have to stop this guy from becoming who he is. And like the whole point of it is like it's kind of cool because Danny has to come to grips that the reason why he became the way he became because his family got killed. You know, his parents, both of his parents, his sister and both of his best friends all got killed in an accident because of him. And he was shrieking with grief. Instead of him just dealing with the grief, he wanted the pain to go away. So he removed his ghostly half from himself. And his ghostly half was so offended that Danny blames all this on him that his ghostly half killed him. And by killing him, he fully let go of his human attachments and became this unstoppable monster. And the whole point of the whole show, no matter what Danny did, his family was going to die. The only way they were able to prevent it, Clockwork literally had to go into the timeline and literally stop time and remove them from the accident because the accident was going to happen no matter what. They just had to make sure that it didn't happen. And no matter what they did, even though that accident happened, his future self still existed. They just had, but Clockwork ended up arresting him and moving him outside of time, but he still exists. So it's like when I watched that episode, it's like, damn, you know, he. This is basically he lost his loved one. He lost what he loved the most, and he was willing to do anything to bring it back, even to basically. Because let's just be honest, he knew the consequences. He didn't care. He felt like he could fix it. You know what I mean? Because some people whitewash the episode and say, well, he doesn't know that the universe was going to end. He knew.
No, I mean
He
how
knew.
like literally everyone's like, yo, you know, it's gonna fuck everything up, right? And he's like, nah, I got this.
Yeah.
I do what I want. That's what he.
Yeah. Yeah. He basically just was like, I can fix it. I can fix it. I can fix it. And I just like that little symbolism at the end that the universe technically is not destroyed. It just collapsed in on itself. And he is the Big Bang. When he dies, the universe will come back
Or
because he's
something. I
basically
mean,
the
I
Big
mean,
Bang.
I mean, possibly. Like, there's a lot of ways to interpret that last scene. um, yeah, there's. I mean, this is what if is generally is in the comics, which is, man, what if
Mm-hmm.
someone took a right turn instead of left? Oh, it ends in the universe ending. Like it ends in some awful, eventuality. And we saw a little bit of that last episode, but this episode was like, no, really, uh, Doctor Strange. Everyone loves him from the first movie, but in this one, we get a variant of Doctor Strange. Every episode, I like to say, who's the variant this time around? And so this week, the variant is Doctor Strange himself. As they call him, Doctor Strange Supreme. And this variant is he is not as self-absorbed and narcissistic and everything, and therefore he and Christine never broke up, right?
Yeah.
And they continued in their relationship. And so when he was going to go get his reward, his award for, doing something awesome, she went with him. And in this set of, like, I'm going to call it this set of realities, she is always supposed to die. Doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
and what's interesting about this episode is that they introduce another concept that to the whole multiverse idea, which is the absolute, what they call it, the absolute uh, point. Is that what it's called? An absolute point or something like that,
Yeah.
where it doesn't matter what happens, that thing has to happen. So up until this point, we've been thinking about the multiverse as well, especially when it comes to the TVA. Well, there aren't any absolute points. They're just variants. They're just, every time there's a new, something happens, bam. So, but in this case, in this set of universes, doesn't matter. Christine is gonna die on that day, and because if she doesn't, Doctor Strange doesn't become the Sorcerer Supreme, and he is absolutely essential, apparently, to the universe. Now,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, and now in the universe we know, she never has to die because his starting off point isn't losing her; it's losing his ability to be a surgeon, right?
Yeah.
So
And,
I thought that was an interesting that they're kind of more codifying what exactly is going on in the multiverse, while also making it clear that this understanding of the multiverse is not the same as the actual multiverse. Like there's two levels of multiversal understanding that are happening that we as viewers know. One of them is the real one, which is the TVA and He Who Remains in Kang. And then there's this one, which is a much more limited look at it that the ancient one talked about in Endgame, but also is kind of playing out in this episode.
so basically, what this is um he's not going to another timeline. He's literally going back in time. So
Right.
this is why no matter she has to die no matter what. The reason why she has to die no matter what because he going back in time can never happen unless she dies.
Right.
So he can't change that moment because for him to go back in time, she has to die. Each time he goes back in time, she has to die. So that
I feel
moment
like we need
cannot happen.
yeah, I feel like we need a whiteboard here.
Yeah,
but
it's like
but it's
it's like imagine um for if I wanted to like let's just say just say this he's the sorcerer supreme right now
right.
for him to keep her alive, for him to go back in time, he has to always be the sorcerer supreme. So no matter how many times he tries to change the timeline, she's going to have to die for him to become the sorcerer supreme that goes back in time.
Right.
So it's sort of like this. It's like in Dragon Ball. Good example, Dragon Ball. No matter how many times Trunks goes back in time, Goku
Uh-huh.
and Vegeta will always die in his timeline because for him to go back in time to warn Goku and Vegeta have to die.
Yeah. Well, and
But
this is it revolves around basically paradox, time paradox, and you can look at it more. The reason why I said their understanding of time travel or whatever is not the same as the TVA and Kang and He Who Remains, because they that version of time travel, multiversal travel, allows the TVA to traverse any timeline,
yeah,
and the way they're doing it in this episode and in Doctor Strange, he is instead going back. Basically, he's only able to traverse one branch, and only at the every time he goes back, he's going back to the start of a branch and just starting another branch. So in a sense, he only has one timeline that has a bunch of branches off of that one part. That every time he tries to change it, there's just more branches. But every time he goes back, he keeps going back to the same spot where it
yeah.
all branches. And so, in a sense, yes, paradoxes can mean something to them. And look at this. We're sitting here speculating. We assume this is all what's going on for the whole episode to make sense. But essentially, the universe his part of the timeline can't work if Christina's alive.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, if by he really, because that's really what it is. It's just plain facts. Because if he just thought and just sat down and quit being arrogant and actually thought about it, if Christina stays alive, what happens? Dormammu is going to consume the universe.
Right.
I mean, it's because how is it supposed? Because for him to do what he's doing, Christina has to die no matter what. That's the thing that he's not understanding. Well, I won't say he's not understanding. He does understand. He just feels like he could fix it. He
Yeah.
feels like he could always a way around when there's no way around. It's like there's just certain things that, like you said, there are going to be parts. It's like, for example, no matter what anybody does when it comes to, we can go do this through the TVA lens. No matter what they do, Kang will always exist. We
Yeah.
just have to make sure the one Kang that has is going to be a good Kang. That is one thing that you cannot rewrite. It's like the same thing. There will always be a Loki. There might be a universe where Thor doesn't exist. There might be a universe where Iron Man doesn't exist. But there is a universe in what we've seen when it comes to the TVA so far. There are two things that always happen in the actual Marvel canon. There will always be a Kang and there will always be a Loki. Those are the two things we know. No matter what you do, no matter how many times you change the timeline, Loki might be a woman, a crocodile, a frog, a flea, whatever. There will always be a Loki. It's the same thing. Kang may be good, bad, a great person. He might be a philanthropist, an absolutely good person. But guess what? He's still Kang at the end of the day. He might be Kang the Wonderful, but he's still Kang at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. This which what I that's why I found this episode. First of all, like I said, it's much better. Like what I want to say it's the best one so far. I can't. It's hard for me to say that because I just like the Superior Star Lord so much, but it is definitely there for the top spot.
It's definitely number
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
No
It's just
debate.
because it's because first of all, Benedict Cumberbatch is just he's just going off the chain on this particular one. He's a lot. This episode is very dependent on him, and he sells everything. He sells evil, or supreme, strange, and also regular strange. So I really enjoyed his. In fact, I'd say the voice acting in here was all around pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I like the very concept of you know uh, every hero. What's the difference between them and a villain is they make the right choice. They make the correct moral choice as opposed to not making one. And this is a guy who has the good intention of fixing something that he doesn't realize can't be fixed. And his biggest mistake, he makes a decision and it's the wrong decision. And his mistake is to think that the more he digs, the closer he'll get to getting out of that hole. And also I suspect that he was driven crazy by, basically I think he ended up doing, you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, I'm
Hmm.
assuming. And he basically did a Groundhog Day for who knows how many times. Because you remember he did 14 million iterations of Infinity War to find out the one that works. And he did how many of these to find out? We know he has the stick to itiveness to do it. Did he do 14 million of these deaths before he was so grief stricken that he decided that he was going to just, instead of give up, he was going to do anything? And he
I
did
mean,
anything.
let's just think about this. There's this guy who's been guarding he's the librarian of this ancient library that's probably, I won't say exists out of time, but it's definitely in this one place that time doesn't work. Where he says, like, clearly says that he clearly stated that he lives longer than most humans. The Strange was absorbing outer worldly beings um for so long that the guy literally died of old age.
Yep. Yep. That's that. So that, I mean, that tells you like and this is like part of the theme is like again the difference between heroes and villains. And Strange Supreme is a bad guy. Let's call it like he literally in the name of resurrecting his the love of his life, he consumed so many entities. And you're like, well, they're not people, so who cares? But the point is that not only does he consume people, he absorbs his other self, his alternate self. But not only does he do that, he also says fuck the world because of her.
Yeah.
And from knowing he turns off all reason, he turns off all understanding, and he ignores the ancient one who literally goes through time to try to get at him, to be like, hey, stop.
Yep.
And he won't listen to himself, and he doesn't even listen to himself when he absorbs himself, because it's, he's, as the guy said, you can be strengthened or you can be shattered, and he was shattered. And that's the strength of this whole episode, that he literally destroys the universe for the love of this woman. And at the end of the day, he still can't even have her. It's just like
Yep.
just a great tragedy. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, dude, even if you resurrect her, look around, everything's falling apart. She's not gonna stick around. What do why do you think you can? You're not fucking God. And it was so fucking on point when he was so powerful. He knew that Uatu was there,
Yeah.
and at the very end, he was pleading with him like, "You're a god, fix everything." And he's like, "I'm not a god, and I'm I'm not a god." And there's actually a quote, and I think it's an important quote. Now, maybe you'll agree with me or not, but this is, I think, an important quote from Uatu. He says, "Meddling with time and events only leads to more destruction, and what is Phase 4, at least part of it, seemed to be about, is fucking around with time,
Yep.
right?" And I feel like this episode, I think, has taken What If from an interesting, fun little side detour to maybe actually being somewhat relevant or maybe important to their mainstream MCU, because that's not accidental. The way they said that, that's not accidental. So I don't know. It was an amazing episode. I really think
And
that
it's just,
they went in on this one.
and it's sad at the end of the day. He didn't die with the rest of the universe.
No, he's still
He's just
alive.
sitting there in the middle of the universe
He's too
with his own
powerful.
grief. Yeah, with his own grief, with his own grief, his own just negative disappointment because he could have stopped at any moment. At
Yeah,
any moment, he could have stopped.
and he
And it,
yeah
like the guy said, remember that at one point he was like, I should stop him. But then he was like, but would he even listen?
yeah and he's like,
Because
why
he knew he was there.
he's like, well, why threaten other realities when you won't even listen to me? And even at the end, when he was just like, yeah, I could, but I won't. Uh, but the fact that Watu finally was bodily within, that's the way it happens with What If. Gradually, he becomes involved, and I don't think he's dead. I think Strange Supreme is not dead.
No, Strange Supreme.
He's too powerful. He was so powerful that at the very end, instead of being winked out of existence by the death of the universe, he creates a cocoon for himself, out of magic, that keeps him you know from being killed or whatever obliterated. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's bad. Yeah,
I
yeah,
can say, let's just say this, and he's probably on a when it comes to like power, he's probably on a universal scale. He might not be 100% four dimensional because a four dimensional being could have easily saved the universe, but he's universal in the sense that he he basically could bring back somebody back from the dead, messing with time, even though he still exists. It's like this. It's like he is three. He's the most powerful that a three dimensional being can become. Let's just say that.
right,
Like he's at that level where he could do almost anything in a three dimensional space,
right,
but he can't do what four and higher dimensional beings can do in a three dimensional space. But like you said, that's bad because if he ever gets into another universe or another three dimensional space, what says that he just goes like, you know what? I can fix what I can do if I take this universe and sacrifice this universe for my universe. I don't
right,
know these people.
right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
it's I think it's bad because who knows how long he's going to be in that little cocoon. He probably can't actually die. He
yeah,
doesn't seem appear that he can actually die, and time doesn't really mean anything if there's no universe for time to pass in. So he may well be functionally insane. He's pretty damn close anyway because of his you know his obsession.
yeah.
So if and when somebody, and I suspect someone may find him and may let him out because the thing is he has the time stone and he has no way of actually moving out of the he has no actual way of leaving the reality, right now. He doesn't have a TVA trend, but if he ever does get one or something like that, it's on. um, I do wonder though why the fuck he spent all that time playing around with the damn time stone when he could have just put all the damn infinity gems together and literally brought her back, like resurrected. I don't mean like brought her back in terms of made sure it didn't happen. He could have just snapped his finger and she would have been resurrected in
Well,
his time.
probably he thought of that. He thought of that, and probably what he during his research probably realized that won't work.
Well, why? Well, my question is why not? It's basically a wish granting device at that point. You have control over all reality. It's not like when he snaps his fingers, she will
Well, it's because
what killed her wouldn't have happened. What killed her happened. He could just bring her back to life. It's
well,
not.
be, I think it has to do with the whole thing that it was one of those events that you cannot prevent or you cannot stop unless you go back to the event and prevent it itself. Because it's sort of like if he brings her back into this universe, she might just disappear immediately right after he brings her back. So it's like, think of it like, I'm trying to find a good way to explain it. It's like it might be the way from his research. He probably saw that. Oh yeah, if I get all Infinity Stones, I can bring her back to life. So like you know how in Endgame, the TVA said a very important line. What Avengers did was supposed to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Them dying was not an event that didn't lead to something that could not happen because there are universes where there probably are universes where Thanos didn't win, where Thor aimed for the head and killed him straight up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are probably universes where they didn't die, but for the whole thing with her, she even if he brought her back, I think it's like how you said. Even though he went back in time, he brought her back. He didn't. Even though he went back in time, he couldn't be with her. Probably throughout his research, he probably saw that. Yeah, if you bring her back using the Infinity Stones, she'll just disappear again. You know what I mean? Because she's a quote unquote, what do they call it?
Well, they call it an absolute point, but
Yeah.
I mean, my point was that the absolute point can happen, but there's nothing about that says that an infinity stone can't bring her back to life because it's not undoing her death that caused him to become the sorcerer supreme. It's just taking her from death and bringing her back to life. So I was just like, these are my nerd thoughts because I'm just like, wow, why'd you waste all your damn time on time travel? You could have just got stupid Infinity Stones and been done with it, and then you'd have had it, and you'd still be Sorcerer Supreme. Just think
Well,
about
yeah,
think about these things, Steven. Like,
I thought of that's one of the things I thought about too. But it's probably in his research probably thought that there was really no way
hey,
that it could work.
I
It
think he was so focused on never having it happen at all that he missed the whole idea that there are more than one ways to solve problems. He kept banging his head on that same wall,
yeah, well, yeah, that is true.
and just like and he kept coming up with more elaborate ways to bang his head against the wall until he succeeded in busting his head open. So I mean, I guess way to go, Steven. I guess. Um,
Yep,
but I think overall, I mean, I don't think this thing has a lot of good stuff for speculation as far as what does it mean for the wider universe. And I do love the fact that Uatu was more than just a narrator in this episode. He actually was a character within the drama,
and he dropped down the hammer on him
yeah,
too.
and I might say he did it in a very sly way, in the same way that Loki and Sylvie could do whatever they wanted in an apocalypse. He basically, I suspect that whoever was sort of keeping an eye on the Watcher to keep him from actually interfering wouldn't give a fuck about this because they know that the universe was over anyway. It doesn't matter if he talked to Doctor Strange or at all because Doctor Strange is basically going to be the only person alive in that, so it doesn't matter, you know. So I think this is the precursor to Uatu actually getting ready to interfere for real in
Yeah,
future episodes.
because he probably doesn't want another thing like this to happen again. Because we know one thing, we know he's just like, because I feel like a lot of people give some of um these characters that they see like Watu and all them stuff. Like, a couple of my friends will say they think he's sort of omnipotent, and I'm like, clearly no, he's just watching and he's just pondering the story of what if, because he doesn't know what's going to happen. Because if he knew what was going to happen, he would have a whole different way of thinking. So like, think of it like this: if that was the living tribunal, what would the living tribunal would have said to what's his name, to Strange? He probably would not even have anything to say to him. We would just look at
Right.
him because I already knew you were going to do this, and yeah, I can bring the universe back to life, but I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction because you feel like, because at the end of the day, if Watu or whoever was able to bring the universe back, he will put it on himself that he helped the universe come back. Because he's that arrogant. He's way more. Even though it's crazy that he's not as arrogant up front when he was before he became it. He's way more arrogant than the Doctor Strange we know.
Yeah. 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 I think he wasn't until Christine died, and then he decided I'm gonna I'm gonna do whatever I can and whatever I want and fuck the world. So definitely a bad guy.
Yep.
And it was a lot of the animation was really awesome. It's just like a very well realized concept. This is what if should be. We need more of this like you know ripples turning into a tidal wave shit. That's I really enjoyed this one. So I have high hopes for next week's episode. So I don't know. A lot of you got any more thoughts before we wrap it up?
I could just say that was very eerie. That episode was very eerie because we all know what's we're nerds here. We all know, quote unquote, how the universe is going to end, and it just felt like, wow, like, geez, if you could witness the universe ending right before your eyes,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
then even after it ends, you're still alive. You're the only one in this empty darkness of void. That is very eerie. Oh, it kind of just sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah, and he got what he deserved, but it sucked. It's you like to think that they're always going to be heroes, but you never know. Every hero could be a villain, in the right
It just takes a
circumstance.
bat. It just takes like was it, the Joker from Dark Knight said, everybody's good until they have a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, I think those are our thoughts on episode 4 of What If. What did you guys think about this episode, and what did you think about what we had to say about it? Why don't you get down to the comments? Let us know what you're thinking. And of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow at gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And we can chop it up about what if in this episode. So that'll be fun. And hey, while you're in the mood to click on things, why don't you hit that subscribe button? It'll let you join the Super Not Funny Show family. And of course, you can always hit that notification bell. It'll let you know when we drop new content. We are doing on the Super Not Funny Show this podcast and the Gamercast, and we do reviews and other stuff like that. So stick around, check all that stuff out, show some love to the show. And speaking of showing love, uh, Lottie, why don't you tell them about your social media and where they can go check you out, check out what you got going on online.
Oh yeah, you can always hit me up at my YouTube, my Instagram. You can always hit me up on my Instagram. It is Anu Kinihun. It's spelled ANUKINIHUN. Again, it is ANUKINIHUN. Constantly upload different stuff about video games, uh, drawings that I do, character designs that I'm working on, gameplay games that I'm playing, and also you can see my YouTube channel, Kenny Hoon 25 is where I upload longer videos in 4K for 1440p 60, and different there's different content that I'm working on. You just hit me up, leave a comment, leave a like, show your boy some love, you know.
Yeah, you guys do that. Go drive those views up, drive those subscriptions up. Do that for Lottie because we like to show love to to our resident game developer. And hey, I think that's the show for this week. So next week we're going to be looking at episode 5 of What If, and we're going to be talking about Shang-Chi, which is making its debut uh, tomorrow, in fact. So we'll talk all about that next time. So in the meantime, I have been Mode Poupe, your resident fabricant and commenter extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I've been joined by the anime expert, the game developer, and of course, lover of all things superhero, my good friend Lottie. And we'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.
Peace.